WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. Killin' WoW, one podcast at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to WoW Killer. I'm Garrett, joined as always by Taliesin. We're not pod fading, you're pod fading. How you doing, Taliesin?
I don't know what pod fading means. What's that?
It's a term when you just don't do an episode or don't do a few episodes and you don't tell anyone, and then eventually you just never do an episode again.
Wow, that's a bit harsh. We only missed 1 week.
Well, then we did an episode the week before, but then we missed a week before that.
I was taking paternity leave. God, Garrett, chill out, man. Oh, calm down. What? Pod fading indeed. What? My goodness. I think you'll see from the energetic state of this episode that there's no pod fading here. Look, man, sometimes you just got to take a week off. Sometimes you just got to have no WoW Killer. Sometimes WoW just has to be spared for a week and not killed. I mean, that's what happened last week.
Yeah, we were asked by the listeners to please stop killing WoW because our listeners enjoy playing it. And they said, please, for the love of God, could you two just take a week off? Take a week off. Let us enjoy this show. And so we did. Much like BlizzCon is taking the year off.
But that's the thing, Garrett. I literally, you might have noticed, I literally don't know the meaning of the word pod fade. So that's never going to happen. Don't you worry.
Wonderful.
We got bad news yesterday. A news that is, it's like if someone tells you the ozone layer is still messed up. It's news that you kind of expected, but it still hurts when you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And that news was that BlizzCon 2020 has been cancelled. Does it count as cancelled if it was never announced? It's just like it never existed in the first place.
So I was we got asked so many times, like on this show, on Twitter, over on the instance, about like, hey, do you think, and this was like pre-COVID, do you think they're gonna take 2020 off? Because what are they going to announce? If Diablo 4 is way off in the distance, we already know Shadowlands is coming, yada, yada, yada. And I smugly and rightly said they'll never skip a BlizzCon again. You're insane. This is not even a conversation worth having. BlizzCon is an institution at this point. They're just going to, there's too much wrapped up in BlizzCon beyond just announcements that they're just going to do them into infinity until Activision actually kills Blizzard. That's how long BlizzCon's going to go on. So yeah, I would say as the smug jerk that I am, yes, it counts as canceled because they're always going to do one until we're all dead.
That makes sense. I think that's a good enough explanation. Okay, fine, it was cancelled, and they did use the word cancel as well. But I was just like, there was still a lot of talk about it, even at the beginning of the year, where the usual weeks that you'd expect a BlizzCon to happen at the Anaheim Convention Center were already booked up with other conventions. And there was that thing of, well, okay, so if BlizzCon is going to happen this year, it's not going to happen on the weeks that we would expect. It's actually going to happen at a different time this year if it does happen. So there was lots of talk about BlizzCon perhaps getting cancelled because of that, even at the beginning of the year, before the Blood Plague hit and before everything went to nonsense and before everything got cancelled. But as soon as that did, my brother cancelled his wedding and what have you, and I think it was clear right from the very beginning that there was obviously going to be no BlizzCon. If there was BlizzCon, Garrett, and I know that the Blood Plague situation is different all over the world, and people's attitudes towards it are different all over the world. For example, if in this country, if you live where I live, people are quite careful. People don't go out so much. You see lots of people wearing masks and things like that. Most people get their food delivered. We seem to be all quite lucky where we can all work from home and things like that. But for example, if you live a little bit down the street in Westminster, you're allowed to drive, across the country in a car and just do whatever you want and chill out and go and see castles and even when you've got COVID. That's what you're allowed to do. Blood Plague, sorry. So if there was a BlizzCon this year, would you go? If the announcement yesterday had been, hey, guess what, guys? Good news. We reckon everything's going to be fine. Totes BlizzCon, mate. Come on down. It's going to be a right, lol. Would you go?
Probably not.
And that's the thing, I guess.
Probably not.
So, and I think I agree with you. I think we wouldn't go either. Or maybe I'd just go by myself and then self-isolate in California for 2 weeks. It'd be terrible, wouldn't it? It'd be really hard. But I'd do it for the fans.
Yeah. It would depend. In this hypothetical, have I been asked to do something official, like be on a panel or anything of that nature? Oh, then yeah, I would totally go. But if it was go out, foot your own bill for a hotel and get a couple interviews, I'd be like, no, I think I'll skip. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
And that's that's just, you and I are in very specific positions, I think, as far as BlizzCon is concerned.
So I mean, even if BlizzCon had gone on in our heads, because we weren't going to go anyway, if it did go on as soon as this Blood Plague hit, in our heads it was cancelled anyway, as far as we were concerned. But it still stings. It still hurts when you see that announcement go up, and you realize it's all incredibly real and it's really not happening. It's quite sad, actually, because, when we were saying goodbye to each other, all those people that you see every year in BlizzCon, if you are lucky enough to go regularly, and you go, yeah, look, we'll see you all next year. It'll be really cool. And last BlizzCon was a particularly big one for us. So we were really looking forward to this year coming up. And guaranteed there'd be some surprise announcements and things like that. All those many projects that Blizzard devs are working on that we haven't heard about yet. All those adverts that keep going up for jobs and things that seem pretty unexplained and what have you. So, yeah, I was looking forward to it. And I thought if they don't do a live one, guaranteed they'll do some kind of digital thing, which it doesn't look like they're going to do. So it's extra sad. I don't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't completely write out a digital thing. I mean, they don't call it out.
They said they might do one in early 2021, which seems to rule out like a late 2021, like when BlizzCon would be, I guess.
Yeah. I believe there is that like E3 replacement that Jeff Keighley's putting together, and Blizzard is confirmed as doing something with that.
Okay.
Which is interesting because Blizzard doesn't usually do jack for E3. Like they have BlizzCon, they don't need E3, but I've always found it a little weird because like they go to Gamescom and a lot of other things like that where they do, not every time but fairly often, bring announcements with them, right? I've never really understood why they don't do E3. I'm not sure anyone's ever going to do E3 again, but including E3, I'm not sure E3 is going to do E3 again, but it's interesting to me that they've even been like confirmed as having any involvement in that that kind of big streaming event that Jeff Keighley's putting together. Just because I'm just like used to E3 equals no Blizzard. They're not involved. They don't. This is like for Microsofts and Andrew WK's of the world to get out there and.
Wait, Andrew WK's at E3?
He was what the hell was that game? I just keep calling it not Borderlands. It was another post-apocalyptic game that was being put out by Bethesda, and Andrew WK did the soundtrack. So this was 2 E3s ago. Yeah,
is he in the game like Keanu in Cyberpunk?
No, I don't think he's in the game. I think I think they had a bunch of his songs on the soundtrack, and so like I love that I'm just gonna sit here and explain it. Oh, there was the Rage sequel. There's Rage 2.
Hang on. How come I saw the Rage 2 sequel when that came out, and I had no interest in that? If someone had told me that if they put Andrew WK in that game, I'd have bought it. If they put Andrew WK and Jason Statham in that game, I'd be playing it right now. I wouldn't be on this show.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, Blizzard should just make announcements on their own terms when they're ready to make those announcements. Like if BlizzCon ain't happening, you don't need to have some big single stream where you're just like announcement. Just as they're ready, give us, here's an update on Diablo 4. Hey, here's a surprise game. It's being announced. Hey, you all have phones? Well, you can play Diablo Immortal right now.
Is Diablo Immortal ever going to release?
No.
Is that ever going to be a thing? What's going to happen?
I
Did it
feel
already released? I didn't even know what happened. I feel like, you know, there've been YouTubers sitting on their Diablo 4 hate videos for ages now, like itching for Diablo Immortal to release. You know, just like they need another hit. They need a hit. And like Diablo Immortal is that hit. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
I mean,
there we go.
They should just put the damn thing out. I really don't know. It is such a weird topic because it was so much drama, and it really would have. Again, I always boil this down to that was just a quiet year. If that was a year with a bunch of other announcements, no one would have given a flying shit.
Well, it's true. People forget that year in BlizzCon, and we are going to have a proper discussion about BlizzCon and our experiences of BlizzCon and our histories at BlizzCon as well. But people forget that year there had already been boos before the whole Diablo Immortal thing, when someone from Activision was on talking about Call of Duty, and like that dude got boos already.
Yeah, which is hilarious because that was like part of like the pre-show countdown. BlizzCon hadn't even technically started yet. It was just filler content, and they're like, "Get this piece of shit out of here!" Like, oh my god, people, calm down. The con hasn't even started yet. Oh, geez, yeah. So, whatever the case is, yeah, I'm sad that BlizzCon isn't happening because I am one of those very privileged individuals that you're describing that gets to go every year. And so it's like, it is work, but at the same time, I get to see my friends. Like that has never gone away. I haven't missed one since 2010. I've gone to every BlizzCon since 2010, and
that's immense.
Yeah, and like the first couple times I went, like no official capacity whatsoever, no media pass, not doing interviews, just going, hoping I get a ticket like everybody else. Being a fan.
So what was 2010? What was the big announcement of 2010?
Jack shit, Taliesin. It was is believed by many to be the worst BlizzCon in the history of the conference.
I thought Geek was the worst one ever.
That was the Geek Is year. That was the Geek Is year. Yes.
Sense.
Nothing was announced. They had jack all. And I had, at that point in my life, never had more fun. That was the most fun I've ever had going anywhere, doing anything at that point.
Wow. Why? What was so fun about it?
I just had never been to a BlizzCon before. Also, like, if you want a personal little, you want story time with Garrett? You want to know what my life was like in 2010, Taliesin?
Not really, but okay.
Okay, well, real quick.
I'm joking. Of course I do. Look at this face. Look at this face. I need it in my face.
I was barely out of university with private art college tuition as hanging around my neck, working for minimum wage in Southern California, barely keeping a roof over my head, and I had scraped together enough Taco Bell money to go to BlizzCon. I was dying for anything joyous in my life, and on top of a lifetime of being a raging Blizzard fanboy and just wanting nothing more than to attend a BlizzCon and finally getting to do so. So they could have just come out on stage and been like, it could have been Chris Metzen on stage goes, "Horde Alliance, we have nothing at all to show you," and I would have been like, "Yeah." Would have been amazing. It wouldn't have mattered, and it didn't matter because they really had nothing to show. And I had a great time, had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends, and couldn't stop going back ever. And to talk about like being a creator influencer, which is a term I hate, in the Blizzard sphere and attending BlizzCon, like it has more and more become a job. Like I have a lot of things I have to do when I go to BlizzCon now. And so the schedule, and I'm sure 10 times worse for you since you had to actually host a Q&A last year. I'm sure it was like really on rails.
Oh yeah, we hosted the Q&A. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Did you? You only mentioned it like 3 times a show. So I was just making sure. That you remembered you hosted the Q&A. And there's been years where I've been on panels and there's been years that I haven't, but like whether I'm doing panels or not, like there's always a lot of stuff that like I have to do. So I basically have an itinerary now. Like it feels job-like to go, but the sense of community and the excitement that comes with just getting to see my friends, like my online friends that if I'm lucky, I get to see once a year and it's at BlizzCon. So that sense of it being work, but also this really kind of like emotionally satisfying experience where I get to go like hang out with people that I love, like family. That hasn't gone away. Like no amount of, oh my God, I got to miss these finals because I got to go record an interview, which I am aware is like one of the most stupid privileged things I could possibly utter. But no amount of that like detracts from that. I still get so stoked about going and seeing my friends. And that's the part that even though I was sure BlizzCon was going to get canceled, I was sure it wasn't going to happen this year because of coronavirus. I'm still sad. I'm still sad it's not happening.
Yeah, of course. I absolutely am. And it just means it's just a more confirmation that I'm going to spend this entire year in this room, basically, not doing much else. And like 2020 sucks. It can blow. It can get out. Basically, I've already, if the year ends with us being able to see my parents for Christmas, like that's a success right there.
Yeah, man, I've been like get personal. I've been trying really hard to like stay positive, and I try really hard not to say things like, "Well, 2020's canceled," because I feel like there's enough people out there putting that energy out into the world. But frankly, like being like, "Oh, BlizzCon canceled," I'm like, 2020 is well and true for me. That's like that was it. That's the final nail in the coffin of 2020. This year is done. Every now and then we cuss on the show, so I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm taking a cuss ticket. Fuck 2020. It can kiss my ass. This is a terrible year. Truth.
So was that your favorite ever BlizzCon? That first one. If it was the most fun you've ever had in your life,
up till that point.
Okay.
I think I probably BlizzCon 2015 because I had just gotten married and it was like part of we essentially had weaved it into our honeymoon. So I don't think there's ever been a point in my life where I was riding higher than certain people not being president yet and having just been married and being at BlizzCon.
What was announced in 2015? I can't remember. I think that's just before the channel started. So was Legion was announced at Gamescom that year, wasn't it, in 2015? Or was that 2016?
I'm trying to remember the big announcements from BlizzCon 2015, and that's not like clearly that's not the reason that I was so excited about it. Like I was excited about it, like it sticks out in my mind because of what was going on in my life around that time. So the Legion, we got the cinematic trailer and we got its release date announced. I think it had previously been announced already.
Yeah, because like they took the very unusual step of announcing like Legion the expansion at Gamescom a little bit earlier. Presumably because they didn't want to risk that we'd all basically have just melted into goo playing WoD for so long by the time they got to BlizzCon proper, and they just needed to give us something to literally keep us alive. And that's kind of what they did. And yeah, so that was that a bit more low key as well, though, in terms of announcements and things. It's weird that I still think of BlizzCons in terms of kind of announcements and what have you, despite everything else that goes on there.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a Linkin Park year. Good Lord.
Were Linkin Park at BlizzCon that year?
Yeah.
Holy heck.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, and then we got the first trailer for the Warcraft film.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't remember any of this. I was not following very, very diligently, obviously.
Yeah. I'm just looking. Hearthstone, that was League of Explorers year. Oh, this is the year that I got a tour of the Team 5 offices the day before BlizzCon, and there was a big League of Explorers key art up. And I was walking behind Ben Bro, and I'm going, oh man, this art is awesome. What's this for? It didn't have the logo. I'm like, did you guys just not use this for something? And Ben Bro's just like, keep walking. Nothing to see here. I'm just gullible being like, oh, what cool art that I've never seen used for anything before. It must have just not made the cut. The next day they announced League of Explorers. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. No, I can't leak things because I'm too stupid and gullible to realize when I've seen something I shouldn't. So yeah, for me it was 2015. But what was your favorite BlizzCon? Seems like
I don't even know, to be honest. Like I was a bit wary of even discussing this topic on the show today, really, because you're right. Like speaking as kind of creators and things like that, it's very easy for any talk of like your favorite times at BlizzCon to basically just turn into really bad name dropping sessions where
but you're a person too, man. You shouldn't enjoy your accomplishments.
You talk about like just people people from Blizz that you met and tours that you had and like access that you were given and stuff like that. And so it's difficult. And obviously there's a whole ton more that goes into a BlizzCon than that. But we're in such a strange situation because people ask us all the time, is it from Europe and from Britain particularly, like, is it worth going to BlizzCon? And we're like the worst people in the world to ask that because we've never been to BlizzCon normally. We wouldn't be able to afford it. Like it's one thing to go there when you live in California or even Florida or anywhere else, but to come from Europe, it costs thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. The flights and the hotels and time off work if you're self-employed, and you're talking a week out of your schedule, and it's the most expensive week that you'll have of that year. And the food, which is outrageous, and everything, all the merc and stuff that you're going to buy while you're out there. And it's just something that we could never possibly even fathom doing. If we're going to spend that much money on a little holiday, we're probably going to go to a Greek island for 2 weeks and like live and eat like kings, and sit in the sun and just have a chilled out old time. So it was nothing that we'd even considered doing before. And to be honest, from a point of view of making videos, it's actually terrible being at BlizzCon. It's much, much easier just to sit at home, get the virtual ticket and like watch everything sort of on that virtual ticket and make videos and cover it that way, to be perfectly honest. I mean, that's what...
Well, I mean, unless you, Taliesin, are going to become like an IRL streamer, because then you need to get a backpack and just walk around BlizzCon. What are you doing?
Well, yeah, I guess so. But I mean, like somebody who the biggest WoW creator by far on YouTube is Belilar. And, he gets invited to BlizzCon every year. As in, we'll fly you over and we'll put you in a hotel there. And the reason he doesn't is because he knows that his job is to cover BlizzCon, and actually it's much easier to cover BlizzCon from home than it is actually being there. So, like we just never thought there's no reason for us to go to BlizzCon. We can't afford it. It would be awesome. But there we go. And so when the channel started kicking off, and throughout Legion as it started getting a bit more popular and things, and we started getting our first calls from Blizzard to, pop over to the Versailles office and kind of have a little tour around there and meet some EU creators and things. And, they send us things to give away or what have you. And it started kind of dawning on us that, maybe in 2017, we started the channel in 2016. As the channel started getting more popular, we were like, oh, maybe in 2017, maybe we could get a little cheeky invite to BlizzCon. That'd be pretty nice. And it did actually come, and they were like, look, and we said, I mean, it's very nice that you're offering us a press pass. Thank you. But frankly, you're going to have to offer us a plane ticket and a hotel as well. Otherwise, it's not happening. And they did. And there's 2 of us. So that's no mean feat. And it's been the same every year that we've been. And that's 3 years now. And we're not kind of big-headed or stupid enough to think that will be a thing that happens forever by any means. But the last 3 years, we have been able to go to BlizzCon because literally the flights and hotels have been paid for us, and we had a press pass. So our experience of BlizzCon is nothing like the average person, and even less so this year when we were obviously sort of hosting the Q&A and things like that. So it's difficult to know. So the first year that we went was 2018, which was the year that which the year was BFA was announced, and that was one hell of an announcement. I don't know if you remember, that was an incredible announcement.
Oh yeah, that trailer went over very well. Which is funny considering, the tail on BFA and public opinion and all that. But that was a crowd-pleasing cinematic.
Well, and we were coming in off the end of Legion as well, which was an incredibly popular expansion, and hype was high. And, everyone was super excited for new WoW. And you had the gameplay trailer and the features trailer, I guess you call it, which was the one that revealed that, we'd be going to Kultiras and Zandalar, and Jaina appeared at the end of that trailer as well. Bondage Jaina looking amazing and with her new model and whatnot. And that was super exciting. And it was just phenomenal. And then you got that heavy-duty CGI trailer as well, the one at the Battle of Lordaeron, which was incredibly special. And I think that was probably the greatest BlizzCon moment that I've kind of lived through, as someone who was attending BlizzCon, was the reaction to that. And like the cheer from that at the end and throughout it as well, where Sylvanas took her Banshee form and Anduin did his Angel Boy crying, strangely more attractive when he cries Angel Face, and rezzing everyone, and Zappy Boy's first appearance, and Saurfang just being awesome. And it was just so exciting. It was like so exciting. People were buzzing after that. Like for the whole weekend, people were buzzing about that announcement. And it was something, a moment and a feeling of just, it was so worth being here that I don't think we've ever kind of topped since. And not to mention that because of the awesome row, we had like seats front and center for that as well. Because obviously we had press passes and the kind of advantages that gives you. But we had no idea how BlizzCon really worked. So we woke up quite late that day, and we were chilling out in the Marriott bar, eating our breakfast and just chilling out. And we got a call from Ro, who was like, we've been queuing for like 2 hours and we got really good seats. Do you want to save you a couple of seats? And we're like, yes, Ro, please, that'd be brilliant. So we just rocked up. We just walked through in like an empty queue because everyone was already inside, and we just walked in and took our place at front and center with these seats that Ro had saved us. It was incredible. Made even more incredible by the fact that Patrick Bejar turned up a little bit later, asking if there were any seats, and we were like, sorry, Patrick, no, you should have been here a bit earlier. Should have queued like the rest of us. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's mean. Patrick has saved me a seat before. You can't do that to Patrick.
So yeah, and so that was like a really, really special moment. But yeah, but for us, like every time we've been to BlizzCon has been work, because when you get a press pass, there's an expectation that you're there to cover the event, So I would feel terrible if we didn't manage to make any videos while we were there. So usually, okay, so here was our schedule for the last BlizzCon. Here's what happened. We flew in because we got a bit better at kind of asking for a bit of extra time there now. And we're like, look, we'll pay for our extra time in the hotel and stuff like that, obviously. But we fly up on the Wednesday now. So we have all of Thursday to just kind of hang out and do stuff on the Thursday evening as well, which I think is really important. So we flew up on the Wednesday. We came in kind of Wednesday afternoon, US time, and got our shuttle to the hotel and kind of unpacked, got all of our equipment out, our cameras and our sound equipment, and set up ready, in the hotel room. Unpacked. We're chilling out, and then had a nice meal with Terran Gregory and Diva. His wife.
Or are we in the name dropping segment of the show now?
Well, I mean, I'm just telling you what our general schedule was. So, okay. and we're always super busy, and those guys are like genuine friends, and we obviously don't get to spend too much time together. So, we always make sure we have like a little bit of time for dinner over BlizzCon, and that night, the Wednesday night, was going to be the most obvious time to do it. So I kind of regret that we did. I wish we'd found a different time to do it, actually, because we were massively jet lagged the entire evening. They took us to a nice place near their house, and we had a lovely evening, and that was great. So then we woke up on Thursday. We had a little sleep in on Thursday, or at least we were going to have a little sleep in on Thursday, because we knew what a busy day it was going to be. And then on Thursday morning, we got a call from the beautiful Randy, who used to be on the Instance, of course, and is now like quite important at Blizzard, because he was going to be our handler for the entire weekend. And so he turned up a bit earlier than we were expecting. So we had a quick shower and went down and got our breakfast in like the Starbucks instead of the restaurant. And while we were queuing, we bumped into loads of people that we knew, including Ashura, and the Lost Codex boys. I think they were in there as well. So we said hello to them, and then we Randy kind of took us to one side, and he was like, okay, so obviously you're hosting the Q&A this year, and here's how it's going to work. We'd like you to like put in as many jokey bits as possible, because that's why. Because we were like, what do you want? Just what do you want us to be straight down the line and just to like shut up and not do anything really? And because that's how we were going to do it. And he was like, no, dude, you're T&E, so like put some jokey bits in there. So we're like, okay, now we have to write some jokey bits. Okay, fine, cool. And then he took us to get our tickets and stuff. And that was kind of cool because he allowed us to skip the entire queue, which was really nice. And we got our press passes. And then we had to have a meeting in the lobby of the Hilton talking about all of this. And the lobby of the Hilton is the worst place to have any kind of meeting at all, because obviously it's full of really awesome people who you may know or you may not, but who may know you even if you don't know them. And so this meeting took about 3 hours for a 20-minute conversation because people kept coming over and saying hello, and obviously we're not going to not say hello, we're going to have our photos taken with them and stuff like that. So poor old Randy was kind of just sitting there waiting for our photos to get taken a lot of the time. That was kind of the story of the weekend, really. It wasn't very efficient, and that took most of the day to basically have that meeting and get our press passes and stuff sorted out. Then we had time for like a tiny bit of dinner, and then we had the Con Before the Storm, which is one of the reasons we like to get there on a Thursday. And we've done the Con Before the Storm every single time that we've been at BlizzCon, and it's amazing. And they combined it with the Wowhead party this year because you go in and you got all these amazing creators and streamers and cosplayers and other cool people, and they've got a little table each one, and you go in and you queue up at the various different tables, and you get to say hello and maybe get something signed and just have photos and just have a chill with people. It's really, really cool. The year before, we had gone there and we'd agreed to do the Wowhead party a couple of hours later, like at a table as well. But because we're idiots and we like to just kind of talk to people too much a bit, I think. So we'll have like proper conversations with people because people are really interesting, and people that come to meet us are really interesting, and we've often got a lot in common and stuff like that. So people will be queuing up, and we know that they've been queuing up for a while as well, so we want to have a proper chat and stuff. And it means our queue moves very, very slowly. So people always say we've got quite a big queue, but I don't think we do. I think it's just because our queue moves incredibly slowly because we're idiots and we don't know how to manage a queue, basically. So like the year before, we'd actually had to kind of leave Con Before the Storm with a massive queue of people still waiting and go to the Wowhead party. So this year we were like, this year the Con Before the Storm people were like, okay, you can just have a table and you can just have the table all night and you can just spend as long as you like, basically. And we're like, yeah, I think that's probably the best way of doing it. But even then, so we got there, I think our slot was at 8:00. And we were at the stage where at 1:45, when they were starting to chuck people out of that room, we still had quite a long queue of people to kind of talk to, and we had to actually abandon the table and start working our way down the queue. We had to like tell them to stop people queuing up like an hour before that. So that's like the best way to possibly spend a night, is just meeting people from your community who maybe they're part of your Patreon, or they're on your Discord, or you just recognize their name from stream or from YouTube comments, or you don't know them at all and you just get to know them for the first time. And it's a really beautiful, incredible thing. It's actually my favorite thing about BlizzCon. And so like it being there for 4 hours, that 4 hours flies by, but it's like an incredibly tiring thing. And I remember when the room eventually emptied and we'd gone down the line kind of saying sorry and hi and what have you for keeping people so long. I remember like just lying on the floor and crying. And it wasn't like a sad cry. It was just like an exhausted cry because I'd never been more tired in my entire life. And I remember just like lying down with my hands over my face, like just on the floor, and just crying and like and we couldn't go. I think we tried to go to a party after that, but we couldn't really. And we had to just like go back to the hotel and crash out, because the next day, of course, then it was time for actual BlizzCon, and we knew that there was like an expansion being released, so we wanted some good seats and stuff, right? And the day before, Randy had talked to us when we eventually had to move our meeting from like the hotel lobby up into our hotel room, just so we could actually have the meeting. And he was like, okay, so do you want us to tell you everything that's going to be happening in like the announcements? Do you want me to tell you what the next expansion is, basically? And I was all like, I was about to say yes. And Evitel said, oh, no, please don't tell me. Don't tell us. We'd like to know with everyone else. That would be really great. We want the excitement of seeing that. And I was like, oh, I almost divorced Evitel in that moment. Like, oh, boo. No, we could have been told the expansion earlier. It'd been brilliant. It'd been great. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. On the Thursday before Combat Before the Storm, we had to have a rehearsal where we went into the convention center itself and got up on stage and got our mics fitted and what have you, and just had a walkthrough of like, you know, the beginning of the Q&A and stuff like that. And that's when we saw the logo for Diablo 4. And that's when we saw some stuff from the WoW What's Next panel as well. And some slides from that, because they were practicing the What's Next panel at the time. And they didn't have the slides up on the wall to avoid like spoilers coming from the crew and stuff, but they did have like the slides on the screens that the people on the stage read out from. So when we went onto the stage, just to like, they walked us out just to see it and stuff and get back into the auditorium. We saw some of the slides, and I've talked about that on stream before, where how easy it is to think you've seen a spoiler about one thing, but actually it's a spoiler about another thing, and how easy it is to kind of misinterpret leaks and things like that, because it's quite interesting.
I feel like I missed out because I did a panel in 2017 and it was so buttoned up when I went in for rehearsal, I didn't see jack.
Oh, man. Well, I went in, and when we saw, the slide I saw was talking about Exile's Reach, the new leveling experience.
Oh.
Okay, so, but I didn't know that, right? So I just saw a slide that said an epic ending, 2-boss mini raid. And like, what would you think if you saw that? If you saw like an epic ending, 2-boss mini raid, what would you think?
You'd think like the ending of an expansion. Like, hey,
I would think that's how they were ending BFA. I thought it was like a surprise 2-boss mini raid.
A surprise. It's called Ruby Sanctum. And yeah.
But so I was convinced. And like, I was all like, I think there's going to be, you know, to Evitel, not to anyone else, obviously, but I was like, I think there's going to be a 2-boss mini raid at the end of BFA.
It's
so like,
it's super easy to misinterpret like partial information.
Absolutely. And so like, that's always my warning when people talk about leaks and spoilers and stuff. I was like, look, I literally saw a slide from the What's Next panel, and I managed to get it wrong what it was talking about and like what it was actually leaking. So
well, like Nyalotha is such an easy example, right? It's like, oh, Nyalotha confirmed. It's like, yeah, but it's a raid, not a zone.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
Exactly. So yeah, all of that. And then so that was a busy Thursday. Ended with me crying on the floor, and then sorry, that was Wednesday, and then no, that was Thursday, and then Friday we got up nice and early because we know what's going on these days, and we wanted to get a good seat for the expansion launch, and we queued up, and the queuing system was a bit different this year, and it was a bit of a mess, and luckily we managed to get some seats front and center in the press section to watch the expansion launch. But then straight after the expansion launch, we had to go we had a streaming slot to actually stream some Shadowlands and on our YouTube channels, on our stream channel, sorry. So that was awesome, and we got to spend a couple of hours doing that. And that was actually a blessing as well, because it meant we could just rip that stream and edit it a bit and put that out as a video. So we made sure that on that stream, we were talking a lot about the announcements and tackling each subject one at a time so that we could release it as a video. But it was also a chance to kind of like, you know, play a bit of Shadowlands and stuff as well, and a bit of Bastion, which was amazing. Then we had to go and watch like, I think it was the What's Next panel straight after that, because there's still a lot of questions over what Shadowlands actually was and what the features actually were and things like that. And that's when I saw about Exile's Reach and how, you know, the 2-boss mini raid was going to be something else. And then we had to go back and make another video. I can't remember what it was about now, but we had another video there. We didn't have any interviews this year. And then Saturday, Friday. What happens Friday night? We went to a party. Did we see you, Garrett? What happened? I can't remember. Did we go to a party?
Friday night would have been the Blizzard party. Yeah. Let's get into full on. Yeah, I don't think I saw you at the Blizzard party that year.
I don't think we went to the Blizzard party.
I barely saw you guys last year.
I think we skipped it. I think we went to the Blizzard party the last 2 years.
We've only known each other since. We've only known each other since BlizzCon 2018, and I feel like we saw a good amount of each other 2018 because you and Evitel weren't doing a panel that year, but 2019, it was a couple of ships in the night. There were a lot of like high fives, like, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Cool."
Yeah,
as you're being ferried off to go do your next thing. I don't remember seeing you at the Blizzard party that year, but I mean, it's easy to miss.
We didn't go this year or last year.
Okay,
no, we unfortunately had to skip it. But
because because we met at the Blizzard party. I was about to leave. I was like finishing a drink or whatever at the bar, and I saw you and Evitel go up to the bar. And I was like having this, do you ever have this? I don't know. Where you have that inner dialogue of like, I really like this person and what they make, but I don't want to bother them. And you're weighing.
Oh yeah, all the time.
You're weighing
totally.
Okay, yeah. Because it's like, frankly, not that I need to fill your head with any more compliments. It's pretty rare that I find new creators that I like. And I was pretty new to watching your channel that year. And I was like, I should go tell him I like it. Nah, I'm not going to bother him. I finally said, I'm going to go bother you and tell you that I like what you're doing. And you and Evitel knew who I was, and I didn't expect that. So that was fun. That was another fun little BlizzCon memory. I was like, I just want to tell you, like your stuff. And you're like, oh shit, I'm Garrett from Angry Chicken in the Instance. And I was like, oh shit, you know who I am. And yeah, these are the fun, ridiculous things that happen at BlizzCon. But yeah, that's
it was awesome.
Someone asked on stream Friday how you and I started talking. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to sound really like hashtag streamer privilege, but we met at a Blizzard party before BlizzCon one year.
And then we helped you skip the queue to get into the actual convention.
I told that story too. I was like, Taliesin loves to say that we intentionally used him and Evitel to get into the con, but in reality, we just got into a really heated debate about how much they were going to charge for WoW Classic. And
True.
And that debate just didn't end until we were sitting together at the World of Warcraft stage about to watch BlizzCon 2018 kick off. So yeah, that's how we met everybody.
It's truth. Yeah, it's and like that's it. And I'm sure I'm missing out loads of stuff that actually happened last year. And I'm sorry if like I literally had dinner with someone that I've forgotten about because it's that kind of thing. So then on Saturday, I was still working on that video, and then we went to the convention because there was another panel. I think there was like a deep dive panel or that was happening just before the Q&A. And then so we watched that, and then we had to go straight backstage to get hair and makeup done, Garrett.
I've had this done once. Isn't it freaking weird? I've had this done only once. Isn't it freaking weird?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like it at all, to be honest with you. And I come from like a acting background where I'm kind of used to it, really. But yeah,
I come from going to My Chemical Romance concerts background, and so I'm rather used to makeup as well. But it had different in that capacity. So I had done some light panel things in BlizzCon's past. Like I hosted like I was part of a group of hosts for like a community like Overwatch Q&A back when I was doing an Overwatch podcast, but never like really official, like you're on stage and you're going to go backstage and you're going to come out on stage and we're going to announce you and you're going to sit down. And so 2017 was the year I did one of those panels. It was called Living Blizzard. It was a bunch of creators that like had gone full time, and it was like, hey, how did you make this work? What do you do? What are your, it was a big Q&A section. It was hosted by Panzer. And I was up there with, it was like Day 9, me, Trump, the Hearthstone streamer, not the president, and Munition. And
it's one of those names, isn't it, that you regret? It's like, it's like when they called the dog in what's that TV series? The posh one setting the English, like posh house with, that all my friends have been in. Oh, what's it called?
This could not be further from my realm of knowledge.
What's the English period drama that's like super popular?
Downton Abbey.
Thank you. It's like when they called the dog in Downton Abbey ISIS.
Oh, that was Archer. The series Archer. Like their spy organization was called ISIS for the longest time.
Yeah.
And they finally had to write that out of the show. But yeah,
and they killed the dog. Yeah, exactly. And Trump is sitting there now going, can I change my brand? Can this happen?
I'm pretty sure it was like a Trump card reference. Like it's like because he played card games. Although he was called Trump while he was doing StarCraft. I actually don't know the story of Trump's freaking name. Anyway, yeah, I did that too. That because I had to go backstage and they're like, all right, it's makeup time. And they had like, it was seriously like one of those, like you see in movies about making movies where they go backstage and they got the vanity set up with the lights and the director's chair and you sit down and the lady who was the makeup artist goes like, all right, what would you like? And I just go, I am just happy to be here. I don't know what is going on. Why don't you just do whatever is normal and powder my face or whatever. And then I had to go get like mic'd up, and I have a lot of microphone experience, but no experience with lavalier mics. So that's always awkward when someone's like, hey, fish this up under your clothes against your skin.
Yeah.
And it was just, I couldn't have been more fish out of water because I'm used to
You
this.
sound very professional. I sat down and she was like, I bet we probably had the same lady. And she was like, so what do you want?
That's exactly what mine said. And I was like, I don't know.
You don't have an answer for that because I can't. You ask me that question, you're gonna get an answer. Like I'm not gonna be all like Garrett and just saying, oh, whatever you like. Say like, oh, what do you want? I'm gonna say, I was thinking maybe like some guy from Kiss.
Yeah, I get very like, all of my.
Who knows? It's up to you.
My ability to be cool and like improvisational just went the shit out the door as soon as I stepped backstage. I was just like, oh fuck, this is really serious.
I did not get my Kiss look, Garrett. As you might remember.
I should have said, you know, if I could get some guy liner and some black lipstick, maybe paint my nails black so I can go out and be like, you know, I'm joining the Black Parade. That would be wonderful. It's going to make me feel really at home. And yeah, I was super nervous. I was like legitimately nervous about doing that panel. Once I got on stage, I was fine. Backstage, I was like totally like I'm breathing into a bag.
Well, we had like half an hour before we were going to go on, and we'd had our makeup and stuff done, and we were essentially ready to go on. And we were sitting there, and we were like, I guess we got to write some jokey bits. I guess we better like write an intro and stuff like that, and have like something in mind and go over the questions and things like that. So we were kind of like doing that mad getting your homework done panic sort of backstage, and like obviously we didn't want to be reading this stuff, so practicing it and what have you. And you know, Evitel is amazing at that, but she doesn't have a background in it like I do. So you know, she was super nervous, and she'd never done anything like that at all in her entire life. Like she'd never been on a stage, you know, really, apart from playing in orchestras and things. So to be like the host of something like that, I know she was quite nervous. And it was just, and then when you had like the mild kind of Hong Kong protests during it as well, which I think everyone handled very well. And yeah, it was just like super nerve wracking, and like the feeling of sort of elation when it was over was great. And getting to see like people like Morgan Day and Ian and Steve Denusa as well, sort of people who we've met before. Like Steve, we would consider like a pal, you know, and we can go up and give a hug and sort of hang out with. Someone like Ian or Morgan Day, we don't know quite so well, so it's a bit more like, oh, hi, yeah, oh, great, awesome to meet you. So yeah, and then we went straight from that to some food with Patrick Bejar, I think, and with Randy and Randy's wife and kid. I might be mixing up 2 meal times at once there. But then, of course, on Saturday night, when everyone else was having fun and like having drinks and things. Oh, Patrick's in the chat. That's cute.
Oh, thanks for watching, Pat. You lurker.
Oh, Panda, mate.
I knew you watched this show.
Gave us some really, really good parenting advice as well, because of course we were expecting at that time, and Evitel was quite like obviously expecting. So we had to have a joke about that in the Q&A because there's no way we could hide it. So while everyone else was having fun on Saturday night, you know, getting ready for the end of BlizzCon and partying in the Hilton lobby and planning, you know, their trips to Disneyland the next day and things like that, me and Evie had to stay up and write the weekly Reset Live, which was recording in a function room the next day on the Sunday. So like our BlizzCon had not ended at that stage, and we had to write a script in a night, which was, you know, to record in front of a live audience the next day, which was the most terrifying thing that I've ever done. Like the Q&A was nothing compared to that. It was the most terrifying thing to be up on Saturday night and like staring at a computer screen, desperately trying to write an entire episode of the Weekly Reset, which had to be a bit more jokey than usual because obviously there's gonna be a live audience there and people had to laugh and stuff like that. Otherwise, what's the point? And I was up until 5:30 in the morning. I had like an hour's sleep, and then we went over to the function room and to get everything set up with our amazing crew there, which like Zillions and Suzu had done so much work to, and Bay from Final Boss was there, and Peculiar from Wowhead was there, and like just getting all the guests together and getting the recording together, having a practice, because obviously, you know, when we record the Weekly Reset, it takes hours and lots of editing afterwards, but you know, it had to be done in much less takes while we were there, and then like the audience arriving, many of whom we'd met in the Con Before the Storm and things like that, and then recording that, and that was the biggest high we'd ever had. That was like incredible. That was getting the live Weekly Reset recorded and it being a massive success and it being super fun and all the cool people that were there, because there's like 60 people in that audience. It was crazy. And this tiny little sort of hotel thing. Oh yeah, Patrick was there. What the fuck? Patrick was there on fire, being the best guest ever.
Patrick in chat room saying it was fine.
Yeah. And loads of other people's up. And then but then of course, that was really cool. We got to hang out with the audience from that a little bit, and all the Wowhead crew were in the house and having drinks and stuff. Then we went out to dinner with Bay from Final Boss TV and all his patrons in like a barbecue place when I really should have been editing the Weekly Reset. So then I had to stay up all night editing the Weekly Reset, and the edit didn't finish until long after we were kicked out of our room the next day on the Monday morning, like, because we had to leave the room at 10. Oh, no, so I was literally in the hotel lobby because obviously that episode has to get out. It has to be released, a news show, right? So we were about to go on like a 12-hour journey to get home, like 14 hours, and you know, like we had to release that video before then because otherwise it's like gonna be far too late. So I was in the hotel lobby. And obviously people were coming up and saying hello because people are amazing and what have you. But it was the first time I'd also been in the hotel lobby after BlizzCon had finished and while the new convention was starting. So while people were coming and arriving for the next convention, wearing like their lanyards and kind of walking around. I can't even remember what it was. It was something boring, something officey, something businessy. You know, like a lot of sharp suits and kind of very, very sensible haircuts. And people kind of, lots of men with their ties slightly undone because they're, you know, letting it go a little bit. They're on a convention sort of thing. And it was a bit depressing, but we managed to get it done and we managed to get it out. And then there was just enough time to go and have a chill with Peculiar at the IHOP and have some pancakes.
The BlizzCon IHOP.
Man, I love that IHOP. I'm such a huge fan of IHOP.
I am not, but I am a fan of that IHOP.
Oh my God, it's so good. And to hang there with the video out and released and like, you know, just able to like relax pretty much for the first time the entire weekend. Like the whole BlizzCon experience last year for us, the only time I remember actually relaxing was that Monday afternoon by that point.
Do you remember
with Peculiar?
Do you remember what it was like looking from the outside in as like a fan of Blizzard things, but also a creator that, you know, isn't attending BlizzCon, hasn't gone out? Because I always just imagined that, you know, really successful, you know, Blizzard, you know, creators and stuff, you know, after BlizzCon, they were like hanging out in a hot tub with a bottle of champagne, when in reality, you're at the IHOP having some pancakes, catching your breath.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you get to the IHOP. Like, otherwise you just have to go, you know, like, and because, you know, we got a huge journey ahead of us to get home. And we got stuff to process from BlizzCon. We've got to get back on the channel and get creating again. And that's how we make our money, you know, that's how we pay our bills. So
you've really hit the nail on the head. Like you've done, like, what I talked about at the very beginning, which is like, you know, BlizzCon is a job, but also like knowing it's not happening. The reason I'm sad is like losing that sense of community and like seeing everybody. And you're absolutely like the whole, when you do this sort of thing, getting to do it live for the first time, like in front of me, like it's nuts. Like I remember doing like I think technically we did our first live podcast 2013, but it was kind of impromptu. 2014 was the first time it was like a planned thing, like we did a live angry chicken, and like people there were there to see a live angry chicken. That was crazy.
I bet.
That those types of experiences are absolutely insane. And that's like BlizzCon's a big recharge for me at this point. Like it's easy when we've done it as long as we have. Like I don't want to speak for you, but it's easy for me to get like very lost in the negative feedback that comes in, and then you go to BlizzCon and it turns out people aren't a jerk to you to your face.
Yeah.
So it's very. It's very.
And I think the people at BlizzCon kind of obviously they represent a particularly enthusiastic part of the player base and the community.
Yeah.
But I think they also represent a much more common attitude among the community than like the louder, less rational kind of more down on everything voices. I think as well. And I think that's an easy thing to forget. And I think you realize that at BlizzCon and indeed any event that we ever go to and that we do.
Well, it's nice to have, and it's not all just like cheerleading too, right? Like last year I had so many like really good in-depth conversations about what was going on with BlitzChung and China and Hong Kong.
Yeah.
A lot of it, actually. A lot of conversations like that. And some of it with Blizzard employees. Obviously, I won't mention names for obvious reasons, but like I had some of the deepest, most enlightening conversations on that topic at BlizzCon.
Well, that was obviously like a bit of a sticking point for us because we'd already agreed to do the Q&A when the whole BlitzChung thing went down. But it was still secret at that point. It was still like we weren't allowed to say it. And we were still working things out because obviously Evitel was pregnant, but no one knew she was pregnant. We hadn't mentioned it on the channel or anything like that. And we're just trying to work out what kind of stage of pregnancy she'd be at. And, you know, we realized we were going to have to announce it beforehand and what have you. And, you know, and then the whole BlitzChung thing happened. And, you know, I had a genuine moment where I was like, I don't want to do the Q&A anymore because I can't in all faith, in good faith, do it. I can't stand up there and you know, and there was lots of speculation about whether there'd even be a Q&A, and obviously that was clarified to us quite early on that yeah, of course there would be. So there's that other thing where I had to sit there watching all these YouTube videos of like Blizz are going to cancel the Q&A because they're too scared and stuff, and it's like, bitch, please. I know it's happening. I'm going to be hosting it, and then having to stay silent about that sort of thing and what have you, and just being like, I don't know. I think maybe it will still be happening. I don't know. And obviously, like, you know, we had to clarify with Blizz. We were like, look, we're still in two minds about this. To be honest, we need some clarification, and we need some assurances that, you know, it's going to be the same format as usual. You know, people queuing and being able to say whatever they want and being able to ask. We don't want it to be just like read out questions that have been completely vetted. And, you know, we want it to be people there, and we want people to have the freedom to say what they want to say. So what's your attitude on that? And to Blizzard's, and certainly people that we've dealt with, to their credit, from the very beginning, they were like, we're changing nothing. You know, nothing is going to change. We're going to run the Q&A exactly like we always have. And what happens, you know, and that's the way it is. And even when we got there and we were having sort of rehearsals and stuff, and we were asking, we were like, look, we're here to do a job and we accept that. What do you want us to do if someone starts doing like a protest about Hong Kong and stuff like that? Because, you know, it might happen. People saying it's going to happen. And it was made quite clear to us. It was like, if someone goes off their script, and if someone asks a different question to the one that got chosen and decides to ask about Hong Kong, like, you put the question to the panel and they have to answer it because that's their job, you know? And like, it was hearing stuff like that made me feel confident that it was hearing stuff like that when that kid started chanting the Free Hong Kong stuff and started making his way to the front, it was because of what Blizz had said and how cool I knew they were with it that I felt able to go and like literally give him the mic, you know? And I was like, look, this kid's protesting. Rather than let him actually kind of, you know, disrupt things, I can solve this by going up to him right now and giving him the microphone and letting him say Free Hong Kong over the microphone. And then it's going to be over. And that's exactly what happened. And I think most people thought that was quite a good way to handle it.
Well, yeah, because it's also like
enough to do that because it had been made incredibly clear to me that Blizz were cool with that. And like Blizz was like, if people want to protest, that's their right. They can do that. So yeah, because I there was a time when that BlizzCon thing was going down before they kind of like gave him his money back and stuff, where I just wasn't gonna. I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to do it. And I told you there's gonna be some serious name dropping here, but we literally weren't going to do it. And I had told Evitel, I was like, I think I'm going to send the email tomorrow and I'm going to say that we can't do it because I just don't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel okay. And that means that obviously we won't get taken to BlizzCon for this year and stuff, I imagine. So, you know, we'd already made a video about the BlitzChung thing where I'd been like highly critical of like Blizz handling of it and stuff. And it just so happened that that night we were going out for dinner with Christy Golden, who happened to be in London. I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, you shill.
This is not what our lives are like, okay? But like,
do we have an affiliate link for her next book?
In London, and like Christy is like a proper friend, and when she's in town, you know, if we're in her town or she's in our town, we have some dinner, and you know that's what happened. And we went out, and like a few days later, we went to the Tower of London together. It was amazing. But so we just went out for dinner in like Kensington, and we were just talking, and it was like talking about the community and how brilliant the community was and stuff like that. And that's what made me think, okay, well, look, if we can get some, you know, she's right. The community is brilliant and it's such a special place. And, you know, she was just talking about, because, you know, we weren't telling her that we were in two minds about doing the Q&A, but she was just talking about fan art and like, you know, like fan projects and like response to books and response to like art competitions and things like that, and how wonderful it was, and showing us fan art that had been sent to her and stuff on her phone. And I was like, oh God, yeah, she's right. It's amazing. Okay, fine. If we can get like assurances off Blizz, then yeah, we'll do it. And we did get those assurances, and the assurances turned out to be completely true. And I am not a big fan of Activision Blizzard, the corporation, as is well known. But I've got nothing but respect for how the people I've come into contact with at Blizzard dealt with that thing. From the people in the staff that kind of protested at the time, to the approach that was taken for BlizzCon, and that attitude of just like, look, we're going to literally let people protest outside, you know, or inside. We're not going to do anything. And furthermore, if people want to do something in the Q&A, then that's their right and they can do it. And, you know, a couple of people mentioned, there was another guy who at the end of his question, you know, he asked his question. He wasn't going to say anything. And then I said, anything else? And he's the only guy that I asked anything else at the end. And he was like, yeah, free Hong Kong, revolution of our time. I was like, cool. And like, but it was chill. It was relaxed. And it was like, you know, it was fine. And one of the reasons it was so chill was because Blizzard let it be, you know? And so I'm always going to have a little bit of respect to them for how whoever was involved at BlizzCon and their approach to it, how they all handled that. You know, obviously there's issues higher up.
Yeah, I brought it up because it's just like it's like the most extreme example of one of the things that BlizzCon reminds me of is that like not everyone is like a keyboard warrior. Not everyone is as black and white as the internet makes the community appear at times, because the BlizzCon Hong Kong thing, like I said, I brought that up because I think it's the most extreme example of that. And then I get to BlizzCon and I'm having really in-depth conversations with people about the topic. And some of those people being Blizzard employees. And you can apply that to any controversial subject that happens in something as ridiculous as the video game industry, right? Like other things that are considered controversial subjects, like Diablo Immortal, right? It seems absurd now that was as big of a controversy as it was when we look at something like BlizzCon. But that's again like being there when Immortal was announced. It's like, yeah, we were having conversations there at the conference itself with people with fans that were disappointed by it. But the conversations are so much more sane, and you're able to actually have a discourse, and there's gray area, and it's I don't know, to me it's really valuable because I'm the type of person that gets really winded by upvote downvote culture. right? Like the yes or the no, and the extreme swings of the pendulum that come with that. I get really winded by that, and I do let it get to me, and it does get me down. And there are times where I think I just want to do a positive show. Let's not talk about the hard to talk about things. Let's just do a positive show. And then I think back to those conversations I have at BlizzCon, where we actually consider all the angles, and then it goes, and I go, no, we should still talk about the difficult to talk about subjects on the content that we're making, and try and be the conversation that I like to have, the conversations that I have at BlizzCon with actual other human beings, and try to do it. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I'm always going to have my biases, but I try. And to me, like a lot of the interactions I have at BlizzCon around less than perfect topics or events, that it goes a long way for me. It helps me a lot. And again, it's just another one of those things that I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss that this year. Yeah,
I definitely will. And I'm going to miss the opportunity to be at BlizzCon and not host the Q&A. And you know, I think we'd probably still do a live weekly reset again if we were going. But
yeah, because I mean, you guys did such a bang up job. They would be idiots to ask anyone else. It's just going to be T&E permanently.
Well, no, it's an incredibly freeing thing. I kind of compare it to George. I remember when George Clooney took over at Batman, right? And I remember like an interview with George Clooney. The best thing that came out of that Batman movie was this interview with George Clooney before the Batman movie released, and Batman and Robin. And they were like, how do you feel about being the third Batman? Does that not feel like, you know, you feel like your position is quite precarious? Like, you know, it's kind of, does it feel like you're really Batman, or that you're just like borrowing it or something? And he said, no, man, the worst one is to be the second Batman, because then you've established that this guy can be replaced. You know? Like, if you're the third Batman, you expect to be replaced. Okay, but if you're the second Batman, that's where you start getting nervous, like, because, you know, and it's the same with the Q&A. They like, if they were going to keep the same hosts for the Q&A, then Scott Johnson would do it every year, obviously, because that's the obvious choice. But the fact that they change the host every year is awesome. So coming after Scott Johnson is like the best thing that you could do, because obviously he's the guy you don't want to follow because he's awesome. But also there's that thing of like, oh, well, they're clearly just doing a different person every year, because if they weren't, they just have Scott Johnson every year. So like, you can do it like safe in the knowledge that you're not going to get asked next year, because they're going to purposely ask someone else. It doesn't matter how well you do. It doesn't matter if you do badly. Like, they're going to ask someone else anyway. So you might as well just have fun and sort of make it your own thing. And that's incredibly freeing. And so it means we don't have to sit here all year going, oh, are they going to ask us again? Did they like us enough? Are they going to ask us? Like, because we know that they're not going to, because they ask a different person every year. And that feels awesome. That feels great. So it'll be really nice to, like, obviously still get a press pass and stuff next time, and you know, some help with the hotel would be nice too, just saying. But it would be lovely to be there and to kind of have more of a social experience again, because it was like professionally by far the most fulfilling BlizzCon that we ever did last year, for multiple reasons, but not least of all the Q&A. But yeah, I'd love to just have a bit more time to just chill and see people and hang out with like awesome community members, and to meet people that are famous, and that's always nice too. Like, I remember the most excited I've ever been was in our first BlizzCon that we went, and you had the big like announcement of BFA, and that was really fun. And we did Con Before the Storm, and that was overwhelming and brilliant. And then Patrick Bejar invited us onto the live recording of Pixels, because at the Con Before the Storm that year, and we'd never done anything like this. And I remember there was a big queue, and we were just relieved that there was any kind of a queue at all, because obviously you have nightmares, like, not that it would even matter, but you're just like, oh, what if no one turns up and we're the only table with no one there? And you know, it'd just be a bit embarrassing. And that's never happened. But I remember there was a big queue, so we were just like relieved that was happening. And I just got a nudge from Evitel. And I was like, what is it? What is it? And she's like, Patrick Bejar is queuing up to say hello to us. And like, we both love Patrick, and we'd never met him before, and hardly ever even talked to him before. And, you know, even online, I think we'd had like some exchanges on Twitter or something. And the thought of Patrick Bejar queuing up to meet us was like, just, exquisite and incredible. And then he asked us to be on the recording of Pixels, which we did, which was incredible, this big round table thing. And we were so nervous about that because these were proper podcasters doing a job and stuff. And obviously Scott Johnson was on it. And I don't remember anything about that podcast, but I do remember we were talking about Warfronts or whatever. And I always use this episode of Pixels as proof that I was down on Warfronts like from the very beginning, because I was like, look, I just don't know what they are. I don't know how long they're going to last. I don't really see what the point is. And I just remember like Scott Johnson at his mic as I was talking just went.
For the audio audience, Taliesin is shaking his head in approval and wagging a single index finger.
That's the wrong impression. He nodded his head and he like crossed his arms. He pointed and he was like, "Yeah." And it was like, if you had got called up to the football team at the last moment because like the quarterback had got injured or something, and you're the dweeb who never gets put in the football team, but you had to play a game, and then you just do a cool pass or whatever, and then the coach is like, "Yeah, made the right choice." And that's all I remember from that podcast. And it's all I talked about after that podcast. Afterwards, I was like, hey, did you see when Scott Johnson like nodded and pointed at me and looked happy? I was like, yeah, I did that. I made Scott Johnson like nod sagely. That was me.
My version of this was the 2014 live Angry Chicken. So it was the first like planned live podcast. We're in the Hilton conference room, which is the AIE Guild Hall, which is also like a makeshift podcast space when it's up and running. And we're sitting down to do the Angry Chicken, and it's just Josh Stills and me. And in walk Ben Brode and Young Woo from Team 5 in these stupid Explorer hats because they had just announced League of Explorers, and they just crashed the show. They just crashed the podcast. They sat down and did a whole live show with us, and it just blew my mind because up until that, any experience I had ever had getting a developer interview was like so buttoned down. It was like, you must put a request in through the community manager who will run it past PR, and then we'll go back and forth on approved and unapproved questions. And we'll have a time and a day, and a PR representative will be in the room with that person, and everything will be approved. And which isn't to say we don't get to ask hard questions, by the way. Just get that one out of the way. But it was just like, wait, are you allowed to do this? And I just saw one of our friends. I won't say who they are. It's just one of our friends in PR. She just pokes her head in the door and just like gives a little wink. And I'm like, sweet. So it was delightful. Like that was. God, I'm trying to think. I guess now it was like 2 more years before I went full time. But that like. That was the exact. I can point to that moment and be like, that's when I felt like I made it as a content creator. I was like, oh, we've arrived.
Scott Johnson pointing and nodding moment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, I have my own Scott Johnson fanboy stories too. I could regale you with plenty of them, but
well, no, and that's still us at BlizzCon is basically fanboys but not of Blizzard so much, but of other creators and stuff like that. And it is true, I remember we were up in the because that's the best thing about being a creator at BlizzCon, by the way, is the press area where you get to just like be on a different landing to everyone else. And you can go and get some nice food, which is laid out for you, so you don't have to worry about that, and grab a can of Coke and stuff. But even better than that, you get to your own toilets. You get to use a toilet which has no queue and is quite nice. And as you're sitting down on that pan, you can think to yourself, it's just possible. It's just possible that Chris Metzen was using this just a little while ago. That warmth I'm feeling right now, that could be Metzen warmth. Facts. So we were up there once and chatting to Scott just before he did the Q&A, actually, which was awesome. And he had like a gaggle of people around him. And purely through voice, because I didn't know what he looked like, John Jagger said something. And I just went, "You're John Jagger." And he was so surprised that I would recognize him just through his voice, not knowing what he looked like. And it's like, well, yeah. It's like, awesome. And it's just like a constant, that's just what BlizzCon is like the whole time, is just kind of getting to talk to people that you respect and who are amazing. And like that goes not for just the creators and stuff, but like pretty much everyone you meet is incredible. And we're in a lucky position where our community, maybe slightly more than some other communities, is kind of very inclusive and very sort of, our community is maybe just compared to the average, more diverse, maybe slightly. Because Evie is a girl and I am a boy, and also we make our beliefs and about things quite clear and plain a lot of the time. So I feel like a lot of people who maybe don't feel as welcome in other communities maybe feel a bit more welcome in ours, and that's amazing because you get to meet people with incredible stories, and you get to meet some amazing people when that's the case, who are members of your community and who say hi, and that's incredibly humbling, and just a huge thing. And so basically what I'm saying is, one, I'm jealous of you that you've known BlizzCon not from like a creator point of view. And I am jealous of that, despite like the massive privilege that comes from our position of being able to, be a part of it and like the inner workings of it. I'm really jealous of that. And I kind of feel like, we'll never have that, really, because we're always going to kind of know people there now. And whether or not we ever get flown out again or whatever, even if we're just going off our own ticket and stuff, we'll never have the experience of just being able to enjoy BlizzCon ever, really. So I am jealous of that. Two, I can see why serious like creators like Belilar do stay home and cover it that way, because it's a much better way of covering it. And that goes without saying. And five, it's a shame that it's not happening this year.
It is, man, dude. Like my first year was, you're right. It was so different. I just fanboyed out. It's right over here. I have because my first podcast was about StarCraft. That's how I got my start. And I'm feeling super down memory laney because I'm celebrating my 10th year of podcasting right now. And I've got the art of StarCraft 2 signed by like the entire art team. And there's a lot of crossover with WoW here because you'll see like Mr. Jack and Glenn Rain and Samwise. And that was my first BlizzCon 2010. I just went as a raging fanboy. And that's all I did. I barely saw any of the actual like game panels because I just like sat at the art stage watching like all my favorite artists do live art.
We see like 2 panels a year.
Yeah, but this was before I even had to do anything in an official. I was there as a fan doing my own damn thing, and I still just just sat at the art panel, and then I went and watched like a lot of StarCraft esports. Like that was my first BlizzCon, and it was so cool.
10-year anniversary is tin, apparently.
Tin.
So
okay.
Celebrate your 10-year anniversary. I insist that tonight you watch Pushing Tin. With who's in Pushing Tin?
Don't know what that movie is.
It's a film about an air traffic controller.
Okay, I mean we could also go for the Wizard of Oz because there's the Tin Man.
Oh, don't be silly! No, I insist that you do Pushing Tin because you've never seen it. Okay, Pushing Tin. It centers on Nick Falzone, John Cusack, a cocky air traffic controller who quarrels over proving who's more of a man with fellow employee Russell Bell, Billy Bob Thornton. Are you telling me you don't want to watch this movie right now?
Not really, no.
Angelina Jolie is in it. Kate Blanchett is. That's probably where Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton met, isn't it? Kate Blanchett is in it as Connie Falzone. Oh my God. You have to watch Pushing Tin tonight to celebrate. Promise me that you will.
Otherwise, I'll be recording The Angry Chicken tonight, but as soon as I'm after that, I will definitely not watch this movie.
Well, your loss.
Yeah. No, it's changed a lot, but at the same time, like, I think you'll be able to get a close approximation at some point, Taliesin. There will come a year.
Oh, you better believe it.
Where they will not ask you to do anything, which was BlizzCon for me last year. And
like, obviously now we have a child.
Yeah.
So what would that involve? And at the moment, that would involve dropping our child off at their grandparents' house and
you're going about this all wrong.
See you later.
This is exactly what it involves: making a different colored Murloc onesie for your child for every day of the convention, and you just bring them with.
Oh, when the child can walk and stuff, that's different. But at the moment, he's a babe in arms, and so he's not going anywhere. He ain't going to BlizzCon, so he would get dumped on grandparents. And honestly, the second that the Blood Plague is over and like lockdown finishes, and I know lockdown never really existed in Florida where you are, but like it's. Like, as soon as it's over here in civilization, like that little boy is getting dumped on his grandparents. And, in fairness, our grandparents have only ever met him once because of this whole lockdown thing. And so we're going to be driving to Swansea. We're going to be dropping him off with his grandparents. And we're going to be going like, here you go. Have fun. We've booked a hotel for a week just down the road. We're going to go out and get absolutely shitted. We're just going to get really drunk now, and we'll come back and get him later. Have fun with your grandchild. Bye.
Oh, I will say this. I will say this, Taliesin. Whenever another BlizzCon happens, because God knows at this point, I'm going to have the hangover of the century for the first day of BlizzCon. Like I'm going to be rolled in to the opening ceremony with sunglasses on. Everyone, if it's anyone's first time meeting me, they're going to think I am just trash of the earth.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because like, we don't get drunk at BlizzCon because nighttime is the only chance we get to make work, like to do work. Like on Saturday night, I had a weekly reset to write and stuff. And on Friday night, there was stuff to do. And on Thursday night, obviously, it was Con for the Storm and stuff. So I would love to go to BlizzCon with no work to do and just be able to get really drunk. I know that sounds really stupid, but I'm British and that's how we have fun. And, like I'd love to go there and just I'd love to just hang out with Preach and Towley and Sloop and just drink all night. That'd be amazing. Well, that'd be so cool. I'd love that.
You've got a podcast now. This is the freedom it affords you. You don't have to script it. It's conversational.
I'm so jealous of podcasters.
It's wonderful. You can still party.
Sit at the table with some dudes and talk for a little bit. That'd be amazing.
It's great. It's great. Also, honestly, you're already doing it, I think, the smart way. I've been trying to convince Scott to do this for years, which is like, instead of trying to do live shows over the course of the weekend while the freaking thing is going on, why don't we just book a space the day after BlizzCon and do it then? Of course, then I wouldn't get to go to Disneyland. So, which is what I did.
We're not really into Disneyland anyway, but I mean, yeah, I know we'd have had we couldn't have fit any more people in for the weekly reset. We had to do a raffle anyway. But yeah, we're thinking if we are there next time, we'll do a bigger room and try and make it not clash with Disney World, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. But whatever the case is, gonna miss it this year. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. Like, they're going to have to do some sort of online thing. Knowing Blizzard, they seem to really like to, tie a bow on like a package and present it. I have a feeling they probably will still do some sort of event stream with multiple announcements at some point. It's probably the thing that they're teasing about early 2021. But I still would say, like, just announce things as it's ready to announce.
Yeah.
Why? You don't need to have one big splash.
I appreciate them having a big splash if BlizzCon's happening, but if it's not, yeah, you're right. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guess we'll have to see.
Okay, just to wrap it up then.
Mm-hmm.
Your one favorite BlizzCon memory?
I'd have to.
I mean, you don't have to say meeting us at that party that time.
It is. Can I put it as a tie? Because it's an extremely hard tie.
Sure.
It's the because we do a pre-BlizzCon party and we have for years. The very first one ever in 2011 is tied with the one in 2014. Because in 2011 was the first year we ever did it. There were like 11 of us. We met up with like 8 of our StarCraft podcast fans. And I remember this was the first time I had ever met anyone from another country that listened to the show, and it like blew my mind. The dude was in from Australia. I'm like, wait a minute, you listen to this freaking podcast and you came all the way from Australia, and it's the night before BlizzCon, and you decided to come to this lame ass shindig instead of, I don't know, going to the Wowhead party or something. And we were like, well, what do we do? And we're like, well, let's go bowling because they have a bar and we can throw balls and whatever. And then we started meeting at that bowling alley every year the night before BlizzCon, basically from there into infinity. There's been a couple of years where we had our party like at Con Before the Storm, but we can't always make that happen. So that was so cool because it was the first time doing like our own community thing with a small group. And then like we ended the night playing Magic on someone's hotel room bed with like a 12-pack of beer. And then that is tied with 2014 because 2014 was, again, that was the first year with like a planned Angry Chicken, and that was like the first big year where all the hosts were there, like all the hosts. And so we were like, all right, everybody, we're gonna go bowling. And so we go to the bowling alley, and there was already like 100 people at the bowling alley bar when I walked in, and it blew my mind. And almost moved me to tears that so many listeners had come out for it. On top of that, all of the podcasters that were responsible for me getting into the medium were there. Scott Johnson was there. Tom Merritt was there. All the like Frog Pants like extended community was there, and like I almost cried. I didn't. I almost did. It like felt. It was just nuts thinking about the 11 people in 2011 hanging out at the bowling alley. There was no bowling that night. We just took over the bar and just hung out and played Hearthstone on the bowling alley Wi-Fi and had drinks and just met people all night and just talked, like you said. And when you talked about being exhausted after doing the meet and greet at Come Before the Storm, this was me. This is like we shut it down. Katie and I did the math. We had been up for 20 hours because we'd flown in that morning. And it was insane. Like it was an absolute, like one of the most heartwarming moments of my entire life. It felt like all of the angry iTunes reviews and tweets had been like worth it. Had like been building to this. I'm like, oh my God, like people give a shit. Cause for us, like for like primarily podcasters, like if people don't go like get your email address, there's not an easy way to interact. There's no comments below. And it's really easy to feel like you're doing it in a vacuum. And that just it made me feel so good. And it was really uplifting and it still means a lot to me thinking about it. So for me, the first community party we ever did in 2011 that ended drinking beer, playing Magic on a bed, to shutting down the bowling alley because there were just too many people for the party to end in 2014. That's it. That's it.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
What about you?
I want a tie as well. If you've got a tie, I've got a tie. The first BlizzCon that we went to, we were in the hotel the night before and we had dinner and stuff. Oh no, we got there on the Thursday. That time. And so one of the first things we did after we dropped our stuff off at the hotel was go and pick up our tickets and our passes and stuff like that, you know. And we went down into the basement, which is where you had to go. And, it's dark down there. And we were wandering through, and so no one could actually see us. Because we'd been talking about this. We were like, I wonder if people will know who we are at BlizzCon. I wonder if, like, we'll get recognized at all. And we'd had a moment on the plane that we got on where someone said hello, and that we were like, oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Oh, that's I've never gotten recognized on plane. That's really cool.
So nice. And we were like, okay, cool. But no one else had said hi the whole time we'd been there. So we were like, okay, this is nice, actually. This is cool. This is like really chilled out. And yeah, like we're still like really small scale. No one's saying hi. This is cool. And we walked all the way over to get our tickets, and we went to the press pass section. And we were like, oh, hi, yeah, this is us. And we gave in our forms and stuff, and they were writing out like the ticket and stuff. And the guy who was doing it, who is a lovely man called David, who unfortunately doesn't work at Blizz anymore, but and he was just filling out the form, and he was like, oh, can I take that from you? Thank you. And he's like, oh, we wouldn't want to spell your name wrong on this lanyard, because that would be a shit show, obviously. And it was just that moment of like, and it was just that moment of like, oh, appreciation. Thank you. And it was like such a nice ice-breaking, and it just seems like nothing when you say it now. It was like just such a nice ice-breaking moment to kind of like make us feel sort of like welcome and belonging and stuff like that. And then like the rest of the weekend was like totally crazy and sort of just a whirlwind of like hugs and saying hi to people. And then like the next moment I would say was the BlizzCon afterwards, which was, a relatively small scale BlizzCon. That one, it was just like talking about BFA updates, wasn't it? And we decided that, okay, what would be really cool this year would be to have a bit like your story, actually, would be to have like a Patreon meetup. And we'll do it in the hotel. And, the Marriott was really quiet all the time last year. So we'll organize it in the Marriott. And that'd be really good. And we'll put it out on Patreon. We'll say, like, we'll meet in the Marriott bar at this time. Anyone who wants to come along. We didn't expect many people to come along at all. And obviously, like, so many people turned up that we couldn't fit them in the bar of the Marriott. It was stupid. So we thought, okay, well, this is not really going according to plan. We'll have the Q&A. We'll have the Patreon meetup in the car park. And we had to go out into the car park of the Marriott, and there was like 50 people there. And because obviously we couldn't talk to everyone at once, everyone was just talking to each other and having just the best time and chilling out and like having a really good, it looked like the most obvious drug deal had ever happened. And it looked really shifty and dodgy, but it was just like this really pleasant thing of something that had gone terribly wrong because we hadn't organized this Patreon meetup properly. But everyone there was just so understanding and so wonderful and so lovely. And we talked some good WoW and we met some good people. And just as we started to flake around like 11:30 or midnight, Terran Gregory turned up to kind of help us out because he knew that we were there, and he just like was talking to people that we hadn't got to yet and stuff. And so I think everyone had a good, like, they came to meet us and they got to meet Terran Gregory instead. Much better. And yeah, it was just like you were saying with your bowling story, just lovely to be among that many friends all at once. And I think that's what BlizzCon is all about. It's just about being in a safe space with a lot of friends. And it always feels like that, no matter how stressed and how busy it is, no matter what the announcements are, like no matter what's going on outside of BlizzCon, it's just a place for friends. And right now, I could really do with that. Right now, after the last couple of months, I could really do with a place full of friends to be in. And yeah, maybe that's why I'm so down about BlizzCon getting cancelled, even though we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat. I think we were all hopeful that this would level out and we would get a chance to kind of cap off a really weird year with BlizzCon, because it would have been the best way to shake this all off for me at least, and for anyone in this community, I think. So, but at the same time, like I said on freaking Twitter, it's like I've got a lot of mixed emotions. Like, it's clearly a right call. There's no way you could make it work right now. Oh
no, clearly no. I mean, and even if they did do it, people would feel really weird, and it wouldn't be the same because there'd still be tension about the whole situation. And I'd rather come back next year when hopefully everything is back to normal properly and we can do it properly.
Yep. Yep.
It's too important to do half measures, BlizzCon, I think.
Again, now I'm just thinking about how amazing it's going to feel when we do get to go back. It's going to be nuts. Like, they could do a Geek Is year. It's going to be, for me, it's going to be 2010 all over again. It's going to be like, this could be.
But they won't do a Geek Is year. And this is something that someone pointed out on Twitter. That means for 2 BlizzCons in a row, you're probably going to get an expansion announcement for WoW.
Listen, I've always believed that if you are a World of Warcraft fan, every BlizzCon is good, because there's always World of Warcraft things to show and announce. There's a pretty, you would expect the next BlizzCon 2021 to be an expansion announcement year. So wouldn't you? Yeah, wouldn't you? We're gonna be in the middle of Shadowlands. Hopefully, they'll give us they're gonna tell us how it's gonna end. They're gonna give us a roadmap, so we have adjusted expectations like we did in Legion, and then they'll announce the next expansion. It's gonna be wonderful. Yeah. That'd be great. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Oh, chat room's like, this year probably would have been classic BC. I think you mean BC Classic, just to fit with the current naming convention. BC Classic, yep. I can't wait to not hit 70. Actually, I have a lot more nostalgia for Burning Crusade, so I would be way more hyped for that than I would Vanilla. But, oh, my camera. The internet has spoken. Yep. The internet has spoken. They don't want you here, Garrett. We're just done. You've made this
episode too long with your talking.
It has.
God, is it you?
It has. I'm going to try and power cycle it.
For those of you listening to this podcast later on, Garrett's disappeared. Now on the screen, it just says no signal. I can't hear his voice. I don't know where he's here, everyone. Don't worry, but still no face.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, cool. And the Zoom isn't working, so you're seeing my monitor. Wonderful. You should watch the video version, audio listeners. This is hilarious. I promise. It's totally worth it.
We have to wrap up there. This episode is 5 hours long.
Yes. So with all of this in mind, let's bring it home. Folks, if you want to be a part of the show, you want to write in, you've heard our mailbag episodes. If you want to be a part of those, the place to write in is wowkillercast@gmail.com. Send us emails there. Let us know what's on your mind. You can even pitch entire show topics if you really want to. So let us know. WoWkiller.
Fancy that. That'd be really good.
Yeah, we don't have to work if you tell us what to do. It's wonderful. WoWkillercast@gmail.com is a place to send those in. Taliesin, if for some reason the fine folks out there are not already aware where they can get your awesome WoW content, where can everyone find you?
Taliesin and Evitel. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us here on Twitch. And you can find us on Twitter as well. See you there. What about you, Garrett? Oh, you already did that bit.
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. This podcast and everything else I produce is over at amove.tv, so go check that out. Sometimes on Fridays, I stream cocktail making with my wife, Katie. We call it Cocktails in Quarantine, and we do it when we feel like it because it's supposed to be fun.
Good to see my kind of scheduling has rubbed off on you there a little bit, Garrett.
Listen, I have enough shows that I do every week, in and out, come hell or high water. I don't need another one that's supposed to be fun, hanging out in the kitchen with my wife as my camera dies again. So clearly the battery charger is not working. That's what's going on there. Anyways, folks, amove.tv, go check it out. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening, everybody. Until next time, good luck and have fun. Wonderful.
We done it.
The camera almost made it.
So close.
Almost made it.
A few less ums from me, and I think would have made it. It'd have been fine.
A few less ums?
Yeah, I say.
Oh, you're thinking the runtime was artificially increased just because of ums.
Yeah, absolutely. If we cut out all the ums, we'd be a crisp 90 minutes there. Definitely.
Wondrous. CreateCon. I mean, yeah, guys. Oh, man. One day we'll do another CreateCon.
Facts.
One day.
Right. I'm going to go and do streaming time for me.
Everybody go watch Taliesin stream. I'm going to bring this stream down and figure out what's going on with the camera. Bye now.
Awesome.